So how do you help your 20,000 federal employees reconcile with the fate that's in the hand of a man who doesn't give a damn about them?
That's right, Michael. Doesn't give a damn. In fact, when he was writing Project 2025, he said, my goal is to traumatize the federal workers and have them so traumatized they feel like they're villains and they don't want to come to work. And that's the philosophy he's brought right into the Trump administration. And here we are, some 700,000 workers are furloughed. As you noted already, we had thousands who had been fired. He says, I'm going to fire thousands more. Here's the thing. In a shutdown, it's harder legally to actually do a reduction in force. And so while the president and vote are saying, well, we're using the opportunity presented by a shutdown, it's actually harder now. And so the judge said, hey, what's your legal justification for doing these firings? And they said, we're not giving you one. And it was just like, it's because we're the executive, we can do what we want.
We're all powerful, almighty.
And thus the judge said, well, you have no argument to support it? Well, no, you can't do that because we're a nation of laws. And that's what we need to hear so much more of. We're a nation of laws, and the laws have to be followed. Because quite frankly, a lot of what the Supreme Court has been saying is, well, the president can't be held accountable for breaking the laws, and he can do and then knowing he can do pardons, the whole executive branch feels like it's above the law.
Senator, you've called on OMB Director Vogt to resign. One, why? And two, do you think there are any Republicans in the chamber who would also like to see him resign?
Well, I think there are, Alicia. I called on this in partnership with Leader Schumer and with Patty Murray, the head of the Appropriations Committee, and with Gary Peters, who oversees Homeland Security, because those are all of the folks who really have oversight of the budget process. And what we have seen with Russell Vogt is not just this huge disregard for federal workers who are getting up every day trying to make this nation work for all of us, but in addition, we have seen him implement his strategy to move the power of the purse, constitutionally assigned to Congress, to the President of the United States. And he's been very successful at that, slow-walking funds, freezing funds, and pounding funds, putting forward this kind of new idea called a pocket rescission, which you can just think of it kind of like Cinderella and her carriage. And when the carriage hits midnight, it turns into a pumpkin. That's what he did with funding under that pocket rescission. And so it's like line item veto for the president. It's unconstitutional. And he's evoking this whole authoritarian strategy, supporting this attack on due process, this attack on freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and freedom of press. The man is a major menace to the vision of a republic with a division of powers and power by and for the people.
Senator, obviously, day 15 of this government shutdown, this administration believes that they can do whatever they want. While this is happening, the Senate, the House is just looking over at the Capitol. I don't think the House is in session. But I know the senators are here, and you all have been continuously in session, and you've been voting on bills. Senator Thune, Leader Thune says that Senate Majority Leader Thune says he is going to schedule a Thursday vote on a defense appropriation bill. Basically, this bill, I'm not going to play the sound, but basically this is a bill that would fund the defense appropriations. It would fund the Defense Department, and they're looking to potentially attach some other things onto this. This bill was it passed your committee earlier this summer. You were only one of 3 Democrats to oppose it. Couple that with what we saw from the president earlier, where he issued an executive action on troop pay. And has directed congressionally allocated funds to be diverted to pay the troops. Are you for any of these? The defense appropriations bill, which would essentially, if that passes, then it would pay the troops because the Defense Department will be funded. Or do we support this executive action? I would argue it is stealing money that Congress appropriated, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And as Sydney Cam Locker-Dub said yesterday, the Congresswoman, and everybody's broke.
Well, Simone, there will be a vote on a motion to proceed to the House bill. And the House bill does not at all meet the framework that the Senate established. And furthermore, there's nothing in the House bill that prevents the president from doing what he's been doing, and that is shutting down the programs unilaterally that he doesn't like. So in other words, we'll have a bipartisan vote. You all come and help us out. And by the way, the president's going to be able to say, hey, that program's not in alignment with my administration's priorities, so I'm just slow walking and not funding it. That has to be fixed. This is the line between a democracy where Congress writes the law about what programs and how much, and a dictatorship where a president or a dictator in some form says, no, these are the programs and how they're being funded. So this issue of what's in the House bill and the fact that it's not the Senate numbers that were agreed to, and it does not have a provision that prevents the president from simply slashing the programs that he thinks Democrats like, that's a big problem. So whether we proceed to it without a prior understanding, I don't think we should. I think there needs to be a prior understanding. Always you have an agreement about the total numbers between the House and Senate leadership. That does not exist for this. So this is very, very different. I hope we do not pass this motion to proceed.